Well, hello everybody, this is Dear Mama Sal on a little bit overcast but hopeful day. 12 degrees here in British Columbia, which would make it 53, as you all know, if you happen to be converting it into American. The word for the day is broadcast. The reason for that is because Erin wrote to me and asked if I could do one on the broadcasts. Because she was saying that she likes to recommend the broadcast, but it's difficult for her to explain what we do. And that would be true. It's very difficult to explain to anybody what we do on the broadcast, so let me see if I can absolutely give it a go for you. For those of you who are part of the broadcast, you will know that there are a number of reasons why being on the broadcast may or may not help you. The first one that I'd like to talk about is that it's fun, hopefully, a lot of the time. In other words, we try and make it fun and entertaining, and as well as informative. So if you like to laugh, and sometimes laugh until you cry, then the broadcast would be somewhere for you to consider visiting every now and then. The second part of the broadcasts is that they're variable. And they're variable because you never quite know what's going to happen. We can be having a lot of fun with all the different personalities. And then suddenly somebody will come up with some quite serious matter. And when they do, the room will quieten down immediately, and we will all concentrate on whatever the issue is. Excuse me. So, now it can vary from all sorts of range of issues. Everything from, how do I stop my mother-in-law doing X, Y, and Z? Or how do I stop my child doing A, B, and C? To, does anybody know how to unclog a toilet, without a plunger? And so we get all sorts of questions that get asked, or all sorts of issues that get discussed. I'm trying to think of some of the more memorable ones, but let me get to that on the second half of this. The third reason that I think the broadcasts are of value, and most people obviously seem to think that they are, that's why they keep coming back, is because they're very supportive. It's amazing how many people are there, because maybe they got stuff going on their lives and they would just like a little bit of support. Now, support comes in different ways for different people, and we have a team of wonderful, caring people who may not sound like sometimes may not sound like it, but they are. And so if you've got anything going on in your life, you're pretty sure that you're going to have some newfound friends who are going to be supporting you during a difficult time. And I can think of one viewer who came to us just before her ex-husband died of cancer. And it was an amazing couple of months that we spent with her as she prepared as best she could for this. She actually demonstrated during this time, and I'd like to give Mel full heads up on this one. She demonstrated during this time most incredible love. She actually brought her ex-husband back into the house, and she gave up her job so she could care for him in his final days. Wow. I tell you, there wasn't one of us in the broadcast network who quite honestly weren't stunned with her generosity of spirit. And so that's another reason why the broadcasts are really interesting things to visit. Because it gives you different ways of handling situations. And if you like, I'm a great believer in it gives you options. One of the biggest problems that we have when we are trying to grow as people is we might not know all the options, or we might not have the ability to have all the options that we might like. Maybe we don't have the ability to go and talk out our issues. Whatever. So what we do, excuse me, what we try to do is be a group of people that you can safely do that with. Now, there are two sides to this. There's a lot of jargon that goes on the broadcasts. Jargon being, you know, sort of words that are used in the broadcast that might not be used in your daily life. For example, we talk a lot about a 2x4, and the reason that we talk about that is every now and then, if I think somebody is looking for excuses to not do something that they said they wanted to do, I will hit them over the head with a verbal 2x4 to go, excuse me? Which is it? Do you want to do it or don't you? And so every now and then you'll see somebody talk about the 2x4. You know, do you think this person needs a 2x4? And so that's one bit of jargon that we have. Let me think, what other ones? Oh, the mop. Yeah. I remember very early on in the broadcasts, I was talking and I desperately needed to go to the washroom. So, being of the humor that I am, I said on the live broadcast, does anybody have a mop? And there was much confusion in the room. And somebody said, no, why? And I said, well, if you haven't got a mop, then I definitely need to leave for a minute. And so, I know, gross. But what happened was that it became the sort of in thing. So you'll hear people talk about, they actually don't even say anything other than just the word mop, when everybody knows they're going for a quick bathroom break. All right, so I won't give you the variation on that Nana gave us last week. Oh, the other thing that can get a little confusing, but you'll get used to it very quickly, is people come on with names, and then we call them with different names. Why? Because we know their name. So that can be a little bit confusing when you first start watching. But I do try and make sure we introduce everybody as we go along, so that anybody who's new understands that who everybody is. Quite honestly, from my experience, it takes a little while to get used to everybody, their names and where they live. I'm still struggling with it. So if I ask you 24 times, hi, where do you live? Just to go, it's Sal, you know. And so that's another very important part of the broadcast. I believe that we're very forgiving. And in other words, you can totally mess up in your whatever you're doing and come and tell us about it, and we might shake our heads a little, but you know, we do want you to move on and grow and do better than you did last time. I won't give you too many examples of that one, but we have had them. The other thing is that I think has been very, very helpful for people is we're a great support team if you're trying to do something that's really challenging. For example, a couple of years ago, just after I started the Dear Mama Sal broadcast, I decided to give up smoking. And I don't mean I thought I'd try. I decided to give up smoking. Now, I prepared for it over the course of a year by using an electronic cigarette for half of my smoking needs, and then told the viewers that I was going to stop. Actually, I didn't know what day, now that I think about it, but the situation arose whereby it was a really perfect day to give up smoking. For those of you who know Benji and Judy, I was going down to visit Benji and Judy in their new house, and when Juliana was still a new baby. And January, she was 3 months old. So the great thing about having a support network was that I could go on and tell people that I was going to give up smoking, and everybody supported me in that. And I literally used to check in every 10 days to let them know how I was doing. And I'd just say, you know, this is now 10 days smoke-free or 20 days smoke-free or whatever. Now, you might not think that's important, but I can tell you, when you're really craving a cigarette, as I was, and I suddenly realized that if I had one, I'd be letting a whole lot of people down, including myself. You know, it's funny how many times we will let ourselves down, but we actually get great strength in not letting other people down. And that's another great reason to be part of the broadcast. Anyway, if you want to know, does it work? Absolutely. I am now over 600 days smoke-free. And to my amazement, Kerry, another one of our viewers, decided that if I could do it, she could do it. And she's now over 200 days smoke-free. And then Marilyn saw what Kerry did and Sal had done, and she reckons, well, if we could do it, she got herself an e-cigarette and off she went, and she's over 100 days smoke-free. So it's not that everybody is a smoker at all. I'm just saying that if you happen to be somebody who wants to do something like that, it's a great support there. And then we have people that have overcome incredible phobias for whatever reason. We have, for example, Leslie in Scotland, who, when we met her about a year ago, was an agoraphobic, somebody who couldn't go outside her front door. And we gave her lots of support and lots of challenges and lots of laughter. And we got her to sit in front of an open door, which she couldn't do. We asked her, we didn't get her to, she had to obviously do it for herself, but she agreed to go outside the door for 2 steps and then come straight back in again. But we made her take a picture so we knew she'd been outside the door. And she did. It was great fun. And then we said, okay, fine, then the next challenge is, you know, how many steps to the bottom of your garden? And it was like 15 or something. And we said, okay, there's your next goal. And the next picture we got was her not only down the bottom of the garden, but through the gate and turning back and looking at us. A great picture. And the look on her face, I want to tell you, had all of us in tears. But what we did was we actually, as a group of people, there was a small group of us, that said to Leslie, okay, every major step you take, we will also take a major step in whatever it is we need to do. And for example, for me, it was every major step that Leslie did, I was on my total gym, because I didn't do that very well, and I knew I needed to. So it was fun for us all. And I want to tell you something. As much as we were impressed with Mel and her incredible love for her ex-husband. We were equally stunned by Leslie and the courage that she had to get outside. Now, since then, Leslie has been outside. One of the questions I asked very early on when she told me she wanted to try and tackle this problem, I asked her what going outside would mean for her, and she said freedom. And that was a good reason. And then I asked her, well, if freedom is your reason, what would you be free to do? And she said to drive. And I'm pleased to be able to tell you that because of the broadcast and what Leslie did to help herself, she has now not only been out driving, but she's played soccer and done all sorts of things. And she's also been through a little relapse time where she scared herself stupid again, and then within a month pulled herself back out. So we know she understands the process, and that's great. Another reason that I'd like to encourage people to watch the broadcast is you'll be amazed who you can help. I know that sounds strange, but some of you really have a lot of knowledge. Maybe your knowledge is about some illness. Maybe your knowledge is about some resource. We really have such a great group of people. We have people from all walks of life, from doctors through to teachers and homemakers and a little bit of everything. So depending on what people need, it might be a great recipe for something if somebody needs it, or it may be how do we get rid of this virus on our computer. All sorts of information. I don't think I've been on a broadcast that I haven't learned something. And if you like to learn, that's a really good reason to come and join us. Now, there'll be a couple of viewers who will tell you part of the reason to come onto the broadcast is so you can keep up with the news. Because I'm amazed how many people say that they really didn't keep track of the news until the broadcasts, and now they really, if there's anything really important going on in the news, the chances are we're going to be discussing it. So not only do they find out about it, but they also get some views about it. So that is really, really exciting. But for me, the main reason that I would encourage you to have a look at the broadcast is because, as one viewer wrote to me just recently and said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was a little confused when I was reading it, and then she said to me, do you know, I had a friend of mine in trouble this week. And because of what I had learned on the Dear Mama Sal network, I was able to significantly help her. She had learned the difference between being a friend and being an enabler. She knew how to support a friend, and she knew what to accept and how to accept it. And I thought that was just so wonderful to hear. And she obviously genuinely was grateful for that. So maybe you have friends. Maybe you have friends who are struggling at the moment and you're not quite sure how best to support them. Or maybe you have a child or a grandchild that is causing a bit of a problem. It doesn't really matter. You don't even have to have a problem. But maybe you know somebody who does. So we don't always spend our time dealing with problems. Sometimes quite the opposite. We have all done mad things, like we all watch the Oscars together. You know, if you're sitting on your own at home watching the Oscars, then you might as well sit and watch it with a group of friends, be it online friends, and criticize all the dresses. We like doing that. Or we even watch the Super Bowl. So there are lots of different reasons, and I guess I would ask the regular viewers who will watch this today to maybe add their reasons. Why did they? That could be dangerous. But why did they, originally come to the broadcast, and why have they stayed? Because we do have an incredible group of people who are regulars. And, you don't have to stay the whole time if you don't want to. You know what I mean? You can come in for a couple of weeks and go live your life, and then the chances are when you next want to come, we'll still be there. Because we're difficult to get rid of now. And for some people, we've become a way of life. They don't watch television. And we've got viewers from around the world. You need to know that. And the times that we broadcast might not be quite as good for people in Europe as they are for people in North America. And yet, we have people from Denmark we've got one viewer at the moment that's from Denmark that wakes up early at the weekend just so she can be part of the broadcast. Really, that's dedication for you. So, you get to meet people from around the world. You get to hear things from around the world. You get to hear the humor of people from around the world. And you will, if you're anything like the rest of us, be amazed at the incredible English spoken by people from around the world, which ends up being far better than ours half the time. So why come onto the broadcast? Well, it would be for your own reasons. But if you could do with some support, or if you could do with a laugh, or you could do with just a little bit of a nudge to help you achieve something, we will gladly be part of that for you. I always think that getting onto the broadcast, the most difficult thing is a bit like doing exercise. I always say the most difficult thing about exercise is getting outside the door. And the most difficult thing about doing a broadcast is actually overcoming the fear of how to actually get on the broadcast. So if you're thinking of doing it, feel free to write to me at dearmamasal@gmail.com and tell me you're thinking of doing it, or drop me a note in any of the Facebook or stuff like that, and I will gladly send you. It's easier actually if you email me, because then I can email you something back, and I can definitely send you just some quick tips on how to get onto the broadcast easily.